All right, Rossi, we are here Saturday afternoon, post stand and deliver. Overall thoughts on this NXT PLE?
I thought it was an awesome show. I mean, I think that there was a couple matches. I mean, I got to rewatch some of them to really get a grade on them. But I don't think anything was less than a three and a quarter. I think some were in the low to mid fours. So overall, I think it was a really fun show.
Yeah, and there's some stuff that was all-time stuff too. Like the men's main event was excellent, probably perhaps top 5 match of the weekend. The Hank and Tank was a super fun moment that lived up to the hype and of a Fraxium match, so to speak, right? And it was just overall strong and played its part into the WrestleMania weekend. I thought it was better than last year, so for sure.
Oh, definitely, no doubt. And honestly, going in, I was not expecting that,
Yeah, I was a little bit worried of all right, now Triple H used to play the game where Triple H goes on and WrestleMania weekends, he steals it with his takeovers. And now that Triple H is in charge of the main roster, I was a little bit afraid that NXT Stand and Deliver was kind of a sacrificial lamb. Because you think of Trick and Mello last year, it was like a 7-minute match, right? And everything kind of held back. And I was a little nervous with that early leading in. Some of the matches felt like they were kind of stuck in third gear, but that was kind of by design. But the matches that should have delivered, and they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that the pre-show was good. I was getting nervous for them that they were going to break past the 1 p.m. hour for us in the East, but I think that everything they did with that made sense, and I think the right team went over too.
Yeah, before we get into the main event, let's start with backwards. But first, let's kind of hit the pre-show here. Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley with Shotzi back in an NXT show, defeated Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Fatal Influence, Fallon Henley and JC Jane, and Metaphor, Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson in a fatal 4-way tag team elimination match to determine the number 1 contender for Tuesday on NXT, 12 minutes and 51 seconds. This thing kind of started like you would typically think. I thought some of the diving stuff was contrived and a little try hard, but mind you, it's like 4, excuse me,
9:45 in the morning.
Over there.
Yeah, it was crazy. The crowd was up for it early. I think it was smart to put this here because it kind of, like you said, 9:45 in the morning. They got to do something to pump this crowd up. But I think they did good. I mean, there was a lot of metaphor early, so you kind of knew that they were going to be gone early. But I really think that the rest of them paced it out. The one thing that was weird is I feel like Shotzi wasn't really helping her team. When
they were playing into that in the commentary as well.
So I'm wondering if there's a turn coming there.
Yeah, it was weird. She's been gone and distant from the team, so it was interesting that you picked up on that as well, and they were playing into that on the commentary too. So I thought that. What'd you think of real quick before we jump off this? What'd you think of Cora and Roxanne? Seems like they're maybe continuing that, or is it kind of just Roxanne being like, all right, I'll see you down the line in our career, and our lasting image of me and you in NXT is me leaving you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it'd be a good way to have Cora get a win over her on the way out, maybe Tuesday. Cora as a babyface, though, she's done it in the past, but I feel like it's not her best lane right now. But all in all, she's going to have to find her way when Roxanne's gone anyway. So maybe that's the way. And I think we saw how NXT does things where they like to have people, work as a baby and as a heel before they pull them up. And obviously it worked with Roxanne. So they might want to see what they have with Cora on the babyface side before they pull a trigger on her too,
And of course we have John D'Amato live tweets here or live text messages for a in-person aspect. The enthusiastic crowd at 9:40 a.m. mid-female F-Fest, but died when Metaphor and Cora eliminated. Bad timing, rushing eliminations, a few GG supporters, but not much response for that finish. So yeah, kind of the same sentiment there. This is my first time reading these, by the way.
Yeah, that's going shooting, man.
Yeah. So, all right, Rossi, I think we should just kind of flow. We should just breeze through it and then take our time where we want. So let's start with Ricky Starks defeating Ethan Page in the opener here for the North American title in 12 minutes and 43 seconds. I thought it was a perfectly fine TV match and a decent way to kind of set off this stand and deliver show, and they held back. It was time to put over, like, the result of the match was more important than the quality of the match, and it was really good to kind of set the tone to have Ricky Starks be the future of NXT.
Yeah, I think if this wasn't a stand and deliver, this match doesn't open. I mean, being the only singles match on the show, these guys definitely felt, you could tell by the bumps that Saints was taking in particular, that he wanted to set the tone for the show. And really, this was kind of his like releasing into the wild in front of like a big WWE crowd for the first time. So I think he was awesome. I think he got his ass kicked throughout. He took some crazy bumps. That table bump was really gnarly. But these guys are what they are. Like, I don't think that they're ever going to be WrestleMania main eventers, but like somebody asked me today, like what their ceilings are. I'm like, The Miz, that, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in that role. So I think these guys are good for NXT, and eventually they'll be good when they do their call up. But I just wish the crowd would cut the shit with the Tony fumbled stuff.
Yeah, it's borderline lame. And then D'Amato kind of says that as well. Perfect opener. Saints over easy. W. Cucks got the chant. Tony fumbled. Whatever. So, yeah, it's like, it was cute one time, I guess, even though it's still a little lame. But
it's something you expect from the Full Sail, or not the Full Sail, the PC crowd. But bringing it to a Mania weekend is just corny.
Yeah. It hopefully, because these guys are bigger than that, and hopefully they kind of get beyond it. This it for Paige as we get out of this match?
It could be. Yeah, I don't know what else he would have there. The only, because he's flirted with the main title picture. Now he's the mid card, so like now I think it's time to bring him up. You can latch him onto something.
Yeah, he's just spinning his wheels. Like, he had his cycle up top at NXT. He had his cycle in NXT, and it's just kind of like, all right, we're just going to spin our wheels here and do this continuously with him. I'm good with him kind of moving on to the main roster, even if it is in a I don't know level, right? So we'll see. All right, up next here is Hank and Tank, your challengers for the NXT Tag Team titles, defeating Fraxium by pinfall in 13 minutes and 58 seconds to win the NXT Tag Team titles. They were built as an underdog team throughout the whole build here, finding themselves, finding their confidence, and this match structure followed that as well. A lot of Tank was fine with like the heat spots or whatever, Hank was fine getting the heat spots earlier, and then really building up to that Tank hot tag. And once they got that hot tag in, we got into full Fraxium mode here and really delivered a great, fantastic, surprising match in a way too. I was a little nervous for Hank and Tank, but at the end of the match, they did their job. I ended up loving them. Honk, honk, Hank and Tank. I'm pro Hank and Tank here. What do you think of this match?
I think the last half of this match was dynamite, like as good as you would expect these two teams to give you. Obviously, the Hank and Tank stuff, like people are going to probably say it's kind of hot shoddy, but it's not. Like, it's been the crux of their TV for a very long time, with people coming in and giving pep talks and whatnot. And, they win that gauntlet on Tuesday, get hot, and then they parlay that into this win. And what I liked about it is there was a lot of like Fraxium, split like teases that have been going on for so long, and even over the last few weeks, like Frazier's almost been like a heel, where Axiom's been like the baby face, like congratulating them and stuff. But there was none of that in this match, and I feel like that was really good because it got Hank and Tank, to that like earnest win. It wasn't like there was a turn that made it happen, and that would make it a little bit wonky here. And obviously there was a turn coming later on in the show, so I'm really glad they didn't do it here too. All in all, I mean, Hank and Tank were completely made by this. I know a lot of people aren't like huge fans of them, but they sold their ass off. They really made this match work. And that Tank, man, he's got so much energy. And Hank's a big boy. He hits a lot of the big boy offense. It worked. And Fraxium is so good. Like they could wrestle the blow up doll like Suzuki did and crush it.
Yeah, I remember I watched this morning, I think, an Ivar clip where he's like, says he was doing finishing school for the big boys once a week, right? And he said Hank and Tank and Obafemi, the first three names that he mentioned. So these guys are kind of really finding their own in their progression through NXT. And it's them getting over like this is an organic build too as well. So kudos to those guys. They're so charismatic.
Right.
It's a cool story where, like, kayfabe wise, Hank is that security guard, right? And then Tank is this friggin' college football player, Northwestern, but you can like he's the ultimate locker room guy. I see these guys all the time as I coach high school, and they're just so endearing and easily and charismatic, easy to get along with, and just fun, right? And they bring all that vibe into this tag team. Real quick, Mike, you think Fraxium is on the way up?
I think so. I mean, I hope so. I hope that they keep them together because I do think that they both could have fun little runs on the main roster, but their most money for them is as a tag team. I mean, they rule. I might see more out of Frazier as a single than Axiom, obviously, but even Axiom's really good. Like the match with Gunther in Spain was phenomenal. I think it's time to come up. I know that a lot of people were expecting a second Hardys match, but it seems like the Hardys kind of went by the wayside with the NXT stuff. So honestly, I'm so much happier they got this match with the NXT types of a Hank and Tank as opposed to the Hardys, and it delivered. And for Hank and Tank, they've got a lot of big boy tag teams that they can wrestle with now. That NXT tag division can become like a Haas division with the culling and Briggs and Inamura, things like that. So I think it's time for Fraxium to come up, and I really slot them into SmackDown with those other teams, or put them in a program with the New Day, and I think you're off.
Yeah, you got OTM, and then you have Wesley's boys too as well, all thick, meaty guys that can kind of deliver too. We got a comment here from Crazy Shark 8,000. If Hank and Tank didn't win today, the last month or so would have been for nothing. True, right?
Yeah, it's dead on. Yeah,
no doubt. All right, and then D'Amato from the live aspect here. They got into Hank and Tank underdogs. I didn't know if they just wanted to see a title change or not, but hot finish. Hank and Tank sold well and finished set up for Axiom for high spots very well. So
yeah.
The crowd grew with the match grew, so they're doing their job. It really was a great match. Probably it's honestly like 4 for me, right? So it's great. All right, the next match we got here, Rossi. As we're flying through this preview, let's get to WrestleMania, right? Number 4, Sol Ruka.
Uh-oh.
Did
you freeze on me?
You're back?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. Oh, there we go.
We're back. 14 minutes and 42 seconds to win the North American Women's title. I was a little surprised. I'm not surprised that they're into Sol Ruka here, right? That's kind of right? But I'm a little surprised that she's the speed champ. She's in a tag team with Zarya, and she is kind of, I don't know. It doesn't seem like she was presented to win this like a Thea Hale or even a Lola Vice. So I was pretty shocked that they went with her, but I was pleasantly surprised, right?
Especially with her winning the speed title this week, like kind of took the scent off.
Tag team, yeah.
I broke this match down as the 3 that could win, which would be Zarya, Thea, and Lola, and the 3 that had no shot to win with Sol, Izzy, and Kalani, and I was dead wrong.
Yeah, I would had her slotted 4th, right? Or maybe 3rd or 4th above Zarya. I don't mind the finish either as well, right? Where Zarya was just like, all right, we're friends, but we got to kind of put our friendship aside real quick and decide what we want to do. The goal is to be champs, right? So they didn't fracture their tag team, but the crowd didn't have a favorite for the ladder match. They just wanted to see the high spots and mark out for them. So yeah, like I said, this is low-key a safe title match. It's just with the girls and the obstruction or the objects and the brutality, it kind of always struggles for me, right?
I thought Izzy did a lot more than I thought she would, and Lola didn't do much at all. Lola bumped a lot. Lola kind of feels like she's lost in the shuffle here, and that's kind of why I thought she was going to win. But she just seems like she's kind of floundering right now, and we'll see where they end up going with that. But I was pleasantly surprised with Izzy Damon this match because she was probably the one I was expecting the least out of going in.
Yeah, no doubt. We have crazy. Shark here again. But I'm happy for Sol Ruca. She's probably the biggest star potential out of all these girls.
I agree. I mean, I think if you look at this grouping, main roster wise, I think that she's like a lock to be something there. She's got a different look, different feel to her than anybody that's on that main now. And while there's a lot of talent in this match, I mean, I looked through the ages of these girls during this match, and 26 and under, Thea 21. The sky's the limit for these girls. Like, there's going to be a couple of them that break out. There's going to be a couple of them that probably never do anything. But I think Thea and Sol are the two that are almost automatics coming out of this.
Do you feel that Sol Ruca's name is like limiting?
I don't, because it's unique enough. I mean, I think like the surfer thing is going to work for her. I just think of like the main roster vignettes of her, on a beach will work out. So, I think she's going to be fine. Zarya, my jury is still kind of out on her. She's young, but I expected more from her, I think, at this point, based on all the hype coming over from Australia. She's just in a tough spot because in prior years she might have came in and made a bigger impact than she did, but Jordan, Julia, Stephanie Vicaire, like obviously they took her lunch right away. So I think she'll be down there for a while. So I think we'll end up getting that, what we have out of Zarya, but it's going to be a bit before she's really at that next level.
Translate, but we're just going to keep mowing through it as we're halfway there, right? So it's NXT.
Right. I'm sitting here with the Frozen Man.
Like, we're developing. It's midday. Versus the D'Angelo family in a tornado-style 6-man tag, 13 minutes and 13 seconds. What'd you think, Mike, overall with this?
I liked it. I thought that Dark State looked pretty good. Obviously the D'Angelo family is a little limiting, but I mean, even with that, like Luca did okay. He's kind of the one that I have the most questions about. I just didn't like doing the turn here. Like, I understand you want to maximize it, but I feel like Dark State could have used a victory without the bullshit. It's only really their second match together, and they weren't used in the main event either, which we'll talk about in a bit, and we all expected that, I think. So they were just, they're there. Like, but what are they going to become? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the stacks turning, I don't know. You felt it coming, and it was obviously an obvious move. But at the end of the day, I don't think Dark State came out of this looking great when, it could have been a dominant win for them when you think about it.
Yeah, it's just like weird, right? It's an establishment group, Dark State, and then you have the D. And I like Tony D. I'm curious. Of his future on the main roster, but this, like you said, ultimately you felt that this was coming with a turn all along. Mike, I wasn't really necessarily. See, I thought I read into the red herrings with Dark State and getting into the main event. I thought it was just more of that feud needed a heel, and then we have these young heels trying to establish, and it just kind of worked out. So I don't know. I didn't buy into that.
Yeah, I thought somebody was going to end up being their leader. I mean, I went back and forth with that for the last couple of weeks. If you guys listen to my show, I've been talking about that a lot. But I'm happy that they didn't do it because the main event didn't really need it.
Another crazy shark, 8,000. comment here. This match was fun. You could have Darkseid go over in dominant fashion, then do the turn after the match, doing it mid that type of spotlight.
If you're watching this, we definitely have technical difficulties.
And Dark State. Yeah, so it's my Can you hear me though, fine, Mike?
It goes in and out. When it freezes, I can't hear anything, and then it'll just pop up and you're talking, and then it goes away again. So just so we're not quiet. Yeah, overall, Dark State, I think, is a team that they're going to keep getting better. I liked how they used the Osiris guy today, who he wasn't in the first 6-man, so they can keep trying to figure out who the best mix of them is, and if there's a single star that maybe comes out of it, it's probably not the Sugars kid, although the finisher looked a little bit better today than it did otherwise. But at the end of the day, I probably think their single star is Dion Lennox. He's probably the one that they're trying to get the most shine on. So we'll see. Maybe they do a singles match with him and Oba to kind of see what kind of teeth they have with them. And, there's the names suck. Let's put it that way. So I'll keep talking. But all in all, as far as the turn goes, why did he throw the club and then just kick him in the nuts? And it was almost like Tony D was waiting for it, right? And all in all, I think Tony D sold it well. I liked how he kissed him at one point before he threw him out of the ring, and kind of felt like it was coming, but it never actually came. And then at the end of the day, the turn was executed, and we were able to see a little darker side of Stacks. I thought it was a really good reaction from the Riz as far as her being pissed off, and Luke is kind of just there. So we'll see what this means for Tony D. Does Stacks become, maybe they do like a loser leaves town match or something down the road? I just don't know about Tony D in the main roster. This just might be the family just replaces people and they become like an intro spot for other newbies. We'll see what ends up happening with everything. I am not prepared to talk here, so we're just gonna chill. I think I got Ryan back though.
All right, we're on the hot spot here now. We're good to go, Mike. Like, I guess the town internet shit the bed, so it is.
I talked to Dark State a little bit, so we can carry it on to the ladies if you want.
All right, we're good with the ladies here. Kind of me going out on that match is fine, right? It's probably the least consequential match of the night, and I don't want to say the worst match of the night because there wasn't really a bad match. I wouldn't say that this match, the 6-man tag, was like bad. It was just like in a bad spot, and 6 matches on a kind of loaded stand and deliver, something's going to be the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, we can't spend too much time with Saquon Sugars. So
yeah. All right, Stephanie Vaquer defeating Julia, Jada Parker, and Jordan Grace in 16 minutes and 29 seconds to retain the NXT Women's World Title. Rossi, I like the layout here. I thought they connected well at the beginning. The work was really good, and perhaps if they were in the main event, they would have maybe lived up to the potential. I was just a little bit taken away at like, all right, well, this isn't really the match of the night. It's a good match. It's like borderline with their peaks on great a little bit, but it just never really got into that gear of great for me. But overall, very professional, well-worked, good match.
You could tell that, with the amount of women that were on the show, when you think of it, it was what, 18 had matches, and then Riz is 19. That's a crazy amount of women for a PLE of any type. But these four definitely had the better reactions of anybody. So that warranted them being in this spot. But maybe it's because there were so many multi-women matches on this show that this one did kind of feel flat, even though I think if I went back and watched this in a vacuum, I would probably like it more. And there's nothing that I thought was bad about it. It was just kind of meh. It was kind of, more of a showcase of all of them. I think that I probably would have done Vicaire and Julia one-on-one, but I also understand why they did what they did, just to get as many people on there. But at the end of the day, if you moved like an Izzy and you held off on the Thea return and you moved Jada and Jordan into that ladder match, that probably would have been better off for everybody at the end of the day.
Yeah, but how many layers of like celebrating NXT rewards at the end of the year? Because this is say this is the end of their year, right? Stand and deliver. Let's highlight the women and get 18 on there, the most in the history of like an NXT, more men for the first time, and God knows whoever, and all that momentum moving into Evolution is kind of big as well, too, right? So, all that being said, it's strategic, but I feel like all that strategic moving kind of hurt the overall upside of this match, being second to last with the awesome triple threat coming after it. And then two gimmick matches right before it too as well. The crowd seems like it kind of just settled in, and like they didn't really start getting going until like Booker T in his shucky ducky quack quack horniness, and Stephanie Vicaire, inserting some energy into this match, because the work is fantastic. Just the investment was a little lacking.
I thought Jada was good in this, knowing her spot. She knew that she was in this match to look up at the lights, right? Like that was what she was booked in this match for at the end of the day. But they all looked good in their times. I think it was a well-paced for a 16-minute match. I think they all got their shit in for the most part. Julia, it was good to have her get like the early entrance and get the reaction, but it's pretty clear that Vicaire is the one that the crowd wants, and rightfully so. I mean, she's got star written all over her. Ultimately, I'm glad. I was thinking that maybe Julia might pull the trigger on a full-blown heel turn and win the title here, but I'm glad that they made this more of a showcase as opposed to that, because that'll have much more impact if it is in a one-on-one type style. When she kind of is next to run with that title, if they bring a Vicaire up. But I liked how they let this match breathe a little bit. All the girls had their moments when they shined, and Vicaire got to do the what do they call that? The devil's eye or something. The ass move.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm all here for it.
But she got it in on all three of them. The crowd goes ballistic with each one. Booker's got to calm the fuck down when it comes to some of that shit. But
I like it. I don't know.
It's entertaining.
I'm indifferent to Booker T. I don't think he's like excellent or whatever. But
knowing that he was nodding off at the Hall of Fame like probably 8 hours before this match started, good for him.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I do feel that coming out of this, perhaps at draft time or whatever, Vicaire is kind of the probably next one up, I assume, right? I feel that Julia is being held off for that heel turn or title win or jump up moment she's going to have for later date, and biggest stage, stand and deliver. Let's kind of make sure Vicaire carries her momentum to the main roster, and she'll do the job on the way out. But I do like how you have Parker, PC, homegrown, star, Jordan Grace, American, free agent, biggest free agent that they've signed, Vicaire, Chilean, biggest free agent that they signed, and Julia, Japanese, biggest free agent they signed. All that kind of treated equals. They kind of did deserve it, but I just think it hurt the quality of the match.
Yeah, all in all, I think Vicaire, every time you see her, she's more ready for the main roster. So hopefully it's not too long. Yeah. She's somebody that, if you told me that she drops this title before June 1st and wins Money in the Bank, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Yep. All right. Crazy Shark. Definitely felt like Vicaire Julia 101 is going to happen again, because they teased it again a couple times, but kept getting interrupted.
Yeah, Julia's got to get her win back. I hope that they only really have the two singles matches in NXT, and then they have their, tiebreaker on the main roster somewhere down the road. But Julia's going to have to get the win back at some point, and I think that'll be whenever they send Vicaire off to the main roster.
Yeah, they definitely deserve that one-on-one setting, big match feel, if it's TV or not, or like a TV roadblock style, whatever they got going on. So they deserve that main event presentation, video package leading up, so on and so forth. So honestly, Julia needs it more than not. And then Booker definitely needs a towel, as do I, every time that Booker T goes off with that. All right, Mike, it brings us to the main event. Obafemi defeating Javon Evans and Trick Williams in a triple threat match to retain the NXT Championship, 16 minutes and 58 seconds. Boy, they copy the pattern of Briggs Dijak last year, but with like two smaller athletic guys, right? So Oba is like a multi-man magician in a way, right? Playing to all his strengths. And Javon is literally a cheat code in these kind of aspects. And Trick really didn't have to be the main focus of in-ring action, and I thought he looked extremely well too. I don't think anything really went awry. Perhaps maybe one of the kickouts where like Trick had to pull out the ref and he was maybe late. That's why he pulled the ref out late and got a little weird. But other than
the ref kicking Obo was like my favorite thing this weekend.
Yeah, it was great. But overall, WrestleMania better buckle up because these guys set the tone so far. It was hard hitting. It was action packed. All the spots flowed together nicely, and they really did deliver an excellent main event. Like, this is probably at least 4.5 for me. I'm definitely going to rewatch it, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it too.
And they got probably 10 minutes less than the Reigns match we'll get tonight. And that'll be slower to build. This was action right from the jump.
Yes.
I think this was Javon Evans' best performance on the main roster on NXT by a pretty substantial margin. Him being the smaller underneath guy definitely favors him. And Trick was kind of, I don't know, I feel like Trick was there, but it was a lot of Evans getting the rub off of Oba. I mean, he almost had the match won a few times. There was that one that legit like felt like a finish with how close the ref came to the third, which there was one in the Julia match too, we forgot to talk about. But overall, yes. Evans being 20 years old, it's crazy. You know, you think of like a guy like AEW has with Nick Wayne. There's just a lot more, I think, to work with like an Evans than you do like a Nick Wayne type, but they both have crazy career trajectories if they keep moving on up. And, you know, I like how they've dug more into his character. They've given him some more meat to the sandwich, we'll say, with him. This match was one that I definitely think he needed. A lot of people don't like him because he almost feel like it's too forced. But I feel like this was a match that kind of showed, you know, what he's got and what his potential is. And, you know, it's not easy to be the underneath guy with the two big hosses that people probably were originally thinking was going to be the one-on-one match. But he definitely earned the spot, and he added a flavor to the match that would have made it a lot better than the one-on-one would have been.
It really did, too. The athleticism really was a conduit in between everything. And I don't think Trick and Oba would have been nearly as good as this was, right? So
no.
Yeah, it was definitely a choice to put him in, but it obviously showed to be the correct choice here. So, all right, is Trick on his way up? I know it's kind of the theme of the night, but it's Stand and Deliver. It's the end of the year, and there's a draft right around the corner, WrestleMania, everything going on. Is it time with Trick? Because last year at this time, it felt that like NXT 2024, 2025 is going to be his year, and as it kind of was. But Obafemi stole the crown from him from a big next thing type of thing in a way as well, right? So it feels like they were kind of figuring Trick out, playing the NXT formula, making him be a babyface, making him be a heel, and ultimately just like putting in the work with him. But overall, I don't know. He's just not as hot as he is in 2025 at this point in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, what I keep coming back to is they're mentioning his relationship or prior relationship with Mello a lot more than they had in a long time. Like, obviously, this was a natural time to talk about it because they main evented last year, but it's been mentioned a few times, right? And I feel like part of the video packages was like talking about, the relationship with him, and it felt like a wind down of NXT for him. Wasn't involved in the finish. I feel like, obviously on the main roster, you've got like a Mello that he's always going to be tied to, who's currently in like an awkward spot with Miz. But I actually wouldn't mind Trick coming up and being a part of that in some way. I think that might be a good soft landing for him. And you can really let him show off like his strengths when it comes to like the athletic side without him having to work these long matches. Overall, his music's going to get a reaction. That, his in-ring his mic skills are good enough. Just sometimes the in-ring falls flat. And, if he comes up with a mellow that just won the Andre, obviously they got something planned for him, although the Andre doesn't always tell you that. I think it's time for him to come up, and obviously tying him into something with Mello, you kind of have to do because of the history, even if it's just short-lived. But I think that's a soft landing for him, and I think it's time. I mean, anytime someone wins the title in NXT twice, it's like the third time it's kind of like, all right, is that when they're going to be here forever? So I'm glad they didn't pull the trigger and give him the title back, and I think it's time. I think the roster needs Oba to stay there for a little bit, because there's really not a lot of men that are waiting in the wings on that roster there. So Oba continuing to dominate that for another couple months.
Too to shine as well, right? He has great upside, but let's refine that and make sure he's ready and build him up, because he has that Reigns, Punk, Rollins, that level now, not instantly, but organically he can get up there, right?
He's so young. And the thing is, the main roster's got so many guys on it that aren't even being used right now. So you got to make sure that you're ready to bring a guy like Ober up, because, he's ready to make that huge impact. Like, I think of like when Reigns came up, he was in the Shield, it was like right towards the top of the show. If you bring in Oba at the right time, he can have a similar impact. And obviously not to the Shield, but like, being very important early. Where Trick's going to have to work for it a little bit more. So I think you gotta separate him at this point. You got to bring Trick up. But Javon showed that he's kind of next up, I think, when it came to, who's going to really be there when Oba's gone,
Yeah, it definitely kind of feels like that mantle I was talking about, that crown, the face of NXT, the men's division. It feels like Javon is in the waitings for that now coming out of this match. So, yeah, overall great match. Highlighted all three guys, kind of did a quick rehab on Trick, Oba's dominance, and living up to the big man, multi-man god that he is in these type of matches. And Javon's stock keeps rising. And it really put an example of what Javon Evans could be. And like you said, being 20-year-old is crazy. So, all right, Mike, heading out of here, 7.5 out of 10, really, maybe even 8 if you want to twist my arm. 2 great matches and nothing bad at all. They've set the tone for WrestleMania weekend, and we'll see if night one can live up to it. What do you think? Overall thoughts on the show?
I think, 7.5, 8 range, I think is good. I was entertained throughout. Nothing was bad. Nothing was like there was a lot of really good too. I watched a lot of indie shows this weekend, and I fell asleep during a lot of them. And that's not necessarily saying that they were really bad, but they're just not what they used to be. Yeah. So I feel like this weekend really needed this to feel like WrestleMania weekend again. And I'm more pumped for tonight coming out of this than I was at 9 a.m. this morning. So I'm happy that they were able to put on a show. And while there's a lot of people that are disappointed with the multi-mans, this roster has worked really hard this year. And there's a lot of people that deserved to have their shine tonight, especially with their 5 a.m. call time or whatever they had. So I think this is everything came together when on paper it didn't look like the greatest show, but I'll take it over maybe the last 2 years of Stand and Delivers when you think about it. And all in all, I think that they set the tone well for the main roster, and hey, Maine, you got to step up now. So.
Yeah, old school vibes there, where it's like, all right, well, NXT set the tone, so you guys have a lot to live up to. I suspect they'll be quite all right. I'll be back here later tonight. If you guys are catching this, I'll be back after WrestleMania Night 1. Mike, you're with us Night 2 or Night 1, 2, maybe?
I'm not tonight, no. I'm going to be drinking too much tonight. You don't want me. Tomorrow, though. Yeah, definitely tomorrow.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to get this up for the audio feed, and then perhaps as an appetizer for them as well for WrestleMania Night 1. And sorry about the technical difficulties, but we'll see you on the next one, guys.
Later, guys.